Catherine. And we're recording. There you go. Herb, it's all you.
Okay, I'll call the Wellington Board of Education meeting on Tuesday together on Tuesday, October 13th, 2020. This is a Zoom meeting, and the first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would like to stand, we'll go through the Pledge of Allegiance. There's a flag just over my left shoulder. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Very much. Moving along, our next item on the agenda is present to speak. Is there anyone out there, Phil, that we have like to say a few words?
If anybody wants to pop on camera, if you have anything to say, you can show your camera and just raise your hand. Right now, everyone is writing. Jen, do you just, you're showing your camera. Do you want to speak, Jen Palo? Okay, perfect. If there's anybody that is not on camera, I don't know if there's anybody on the phone besides Herb tonight. If you just want to raise your hand, we can get you. Going once. Going twice. All right, Herb, it's a quiet night.
Okay. Okay, moving along to item 4 on the agenda, which is the chairman's report. I just have a few words. I just want to say that all the children in our school system, regardless of their life circumstances, deserve an excellent education and help them reach high standards of performance. And we as a Board of Education are challenged really to ensure that excellent educational opportunity for all students. And it's critical that our schools in Wellington adapt to ensure that every one of our students are successful. Practices and priorities that we create in a plan for our policies bring about excellence, hopefully, and equity, and encourages a more welcoming culture within our school system. I think that, and we have means of taking care of these things. No student should confront bias or harassment, prejudice, or discrimination in our schools, and I think we all agree to that. And it's up to the Board of Education as effective leaders to establish and sustain safe and enjoyable learning environments in both of the schools. And I feel that if the Board of Education is going oversees our schools, this matter, and allow each child to thrive, then the school Board of Education should be examining its own cultural competencies. So we set an example for the school district. So basically, that's what I wanted to say. And I think we want to build respect and things of that nature, and build on ethnic and social cultural diversity in the district, and also we want the district to honor and respect and value not only diversity but equity in every way. And I think to some extent we do that. And another thing I wanted to mention, in fact, is we have so many things on our plate. When I thought about and looked at the agenda and thought about all of the things that we have to take up, it's a massive job, and I think the board deserves a lot of credit sticking to it and thick and thin. With the pandemic and everything, which has thrown a monkey wrench into everything, and we're spending so much time on some of these other things, and we have not neglected, but we haven't spent as much time on our curriculum and our goals and our things that are actually going on within the school district. And hopefully we will, as we move down the road, we'll be able to handle some of those things and take care of them. With that, I will ask Phil if he has any communications. I do not have any at this time. Do you have any?
Either. None.
Okay, if not, we'll move to the item 6 on the agenda, which is the superintendent's report.
Sure. Thank you. So just a quick enrollment update. We currently have 398 students enrolled. 2 students are outplaced currently. Center School has 201 students, and we have 158 students learning on campus, which is about 79% of our students at Center. And 43 students are learning remotely, which is about 21%. Hall School has 195 students with 148 students learning on campus, which is about 76% at Hall. And we have 47 students that are learning remotely at Hall right now, which is about 24%. We are seeing a trend of students trickling back into school, returning to on-campus learning. One thing that I hadn't shared that we were talking about that I thought was important for the board to know regarding enrollment is we have 18 students that have moved to homeschooling this year, and that's purely because of COVID. And so it's, our numbers look lower this year, and it's skewed, but I do anticipate that those students are going to return when the pandemic is over, but 18 students is a lot. And those are students that are not typically homeschooled. Those are not in my count. Questions about enrollment? Elena?
Phil, when they homeschool, do parents have to come in to see you and set up their program, what they're going to be doing, or?
Yeah, they're supposed to be honest with you, the state is really low key on this issue. They're supposed to notify us, which all of these families have. They sign off that they're going to be providing services, and the district does not have a responsibility to those folks, to those students. However, we are trying to stay connected with those families because if they return, which we do expect at some point they will, we want to make sure that those kids are still connected to our community.
So if they do return to school, at some point, they'll be ready. They won't be behind or anything like that. They'll be right on course.
That I don't know. That's entirely on the parent to provide the instruction. The state's website is pretty robust for what you can do for homeschooling, but it's entirely up to the parent. When they return, we meet them wherever they are. That's for any student.
Do they turn in their computers?
Oh yeah, if they're not tied to the district anymore, they're not enrolled in a class, they're not in our figures, they're not in our, they don't use our technology.
Mm-hmm.
Elena has a question.
Any other questions?
Elena?
Yes, I just wanted quickly you to repeat the numbers, please.
Sure. 398 total. 201 are at center. And of that 201, 158 are on campus. And 43 are learning remotely. And then Hall School has 195. 148 are learning on campus. And 47 are learning remotely. So we are basically tracking this right now. The principal secretary at each building, and we have a spreadsheet. And anytime someone moves either back onto campus or moves to remote learning, I have to report it weekly to the state. And so we're tracking it. We can kind of see the movement. And for whatever reason, we've had a couple kids move out to remote learning, and some kids have moved in. So it's been balanced. But we are seeing more kids. We have a 7-day policy that they must give us 7 days to return. And that's just so we can prepare and get desks and arrange transportation, all that information. But we're seeing a transition back.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The item B is the Willington Emergency Communications Task Force meeting update. This is the task force that you appointed me to as the representative of the board, and we had our first meeting on September 16th. It was just an initial planning meeting. It was to review some general information about the purpose of the committee. Goals for the committee will be developed and community needs will be identified. We briefly discussed the different alert systems that are available and that committee will be reviewing. The need for protocols, and that the protocols including the usage, and then how that committee will help educate the community members regarding those protocols. So again, this committee was formed in response to the tragedy that occurred last May in Wellington. So looking to improve communication within the community, the committee does have that state police representative on it. We were supposed to meet last week, and it was actually the same night as our board meeting, and they got basically booted out of their meeting because of the windstorm. So we will be scheduling another meeting. So I just want to give you an update on that. Any questions on that?
Do they use radios and communication? Are they involved in this at all?
Yeah, this is really about the communication out to the public. And there's two basically systems that are out there that we're investigating that we know so far. One is the Connecticut Alert System that you can sign up for right now, Everbridge. And then there's a system called Code Red. A lot of places use, the Everbridge system, but some of our neighbors on the borders of Wellington don't. And so that committee is going to, use that to determine. But it's basically, hey, there's a nasty storm coming. There's potential for a tornado warning. And, if it's in our protocol that we would notify community members, the ERICA could put out a message to anyone that would be on that system if you've signed up. So it's really to communicate with the public to let them know there's a public emergency and provide some information.
Are there any amateur radio operators in the system, on this committee?
There's not amateurs, but they're pros because they work for the fire department. I mean, they know their stuff. And Mike McCoo's on it too, and that's a big part of his job. So they know more about radios, Herb, than I ever dreamed to know about. So, but it's about the community. Can I move along? All right.
The reopening, I guess so.
Okay. The reopening committee meeting, we had a meeting last week, the reopening advisory committee. We went through several topics just to prepare for an update to our plan. Obviously, as you know, this situation continues to evolve as we get more information. I will tell you that the utility staff are working out tremendously. Just the additional cleaning, the delivering lunches, the doing the catch-all has been extremely well received, and it's going well. We had 5, and we just hired 2. 2 of them just moved, I will say, up into the WESS union. They were hired as paraprofessionals. So we're down to 3 utility staff. These were the paraprofessional openings that we had. We hadn't been able to fill them, and these 2 folks passed the para-pro test. They were interested in the positions. They've been doing a great job with it, so they were hired into that union. So we'll be looking to, and then you may have seen a post or not, whether on Facebook or publicly, we're looking to replace those folks to keep our utility staff members up at this time because it is working well. The other things that were discussed at that meeting, so we had, we approved a shift for student cohorts to be able to share items in physical education and during recess. This was a big issue. In our initial plan, we did not want students to share items in PE or at recess. And just talking to the Department of Public Health and what other school systems are doing, this is going to allow students more options at recess because it's really hard right now. They can't, have any equipment. They're already sharing the playscape. They get it like once a month. It's going to open up learning opportunities in PE class. So the committee agreed that we're going to set some parameters. I'm going to set some parameters that are going to go out to the staff. And they cannot share items outside of their cohort. Their cohort, some school systems make a cohort a grade level. We do not see it that way. We see a cohort as one class. So that one class, each class will get their own recess bag. They cannot share it with anybody else. There's going to be hand washing protocols before recess and after recess, and that teacher will take that recess bag back to their class. Same thing with PE. It will not be shared across other classes. However, if they do want to share any of that equipment in PE class, they have to disinfect it first. Again, this decision was supported by Department of Public Health, and we had a good conversation about it. We know that the main transmission of the virus is through respiratory droplets, not necessarily touch. So they're already cohorted, so we thought it would be kind of a relief to teachers to have something for those students to be able to do outside, and for the PE teachers to go beyond foot skills in PE classes. The last comments I want to make about the committee, we also discussed some changes to loading buses. School picture day, we were going to not allow school picture day till the fall, but we're actually booking them this fall, and the principals are going to set a really tight schedule for that during the school day, and we'll rotate the students through. And we talked about several other school-related topics. I also wanted to share that I informed the committee we got 500 adult masks from a joint Connecticut State Department of Education and Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security initiative. It was supported by the National Guard, and they helped distribute the masks. Why I share that is because one of our parents, Corey Brennan, is a senior airman in the Air Force. He actually was at Mohegan Sun helping out with the distribution, and we didn't have to send anybody down there. He brought them back for us and delivered them to center school. And so we got 500 masks, and I was just notified today we are going to receive, I believe, an additional 500 masks that are supposed to be child size, and I'm sure he and I will be talking tomorrow to try and get him to do the same setup. So a big thanks to him and the committee for all their work around this. Any questions about the reopening committee work?
Yeah, we've sealed down the schools pretty well. We've been very lucky so far with the virus all around us, and the youngsters seem to be protected, and we haven't had any cases so far, which is wonderful.
We've had 2 on our staff, but really early on.
I'm talking about, yeah,
students. Yeah, I will say that we just saw some data that came out. I think it's like 340,000 students in the state, and they're not seeing school as a transmission site, which is really good. That's really positive. It's good for us. That means if we can keep this going, we're going to be able to stay in longer. Again, there are some places that are popping and having some outbreaks. It is challenging. When we get to cold and flu season, I will cross my fingers we can make it through that. to be hard for staff.
I have two questions I'd like to ask. One of them is on taking temperatures of students and staff. I think you mentioned this, that this is going to be taken care of it at home by staff, and the children and parents will take care of it and so forth. But I don't know how that's working out. Now, I'm wondering why we're not doing this. Everywhere I go, like I go to the doctor more than most of you do. Every time I go in, they take out their little temperature gun and they check your temperature before they even let you into the room. And I think you mentioned this before, but it would seem to me that that would be an extra precaution that we could take. My other question is that we're sealed off the building. We have not allowed people in, outsiders and all that kind of thing, to protect the youngsters yet. And I have no quarrel with it, but we're opening up Hall School on November 3rd for the election. And we're going to have, I don't know how many people will come in, probably hundreds will be in that building from all over the community. And they're going to contaminate the room. There's no question in my mind that that's going to happen, you know. So that we're going to have to decontaminate it. We certainly can't let the youngsters use that room for a couple of days. I don't know how many days after the 3rd, just to protect them from a virus that, you know, inadvertently someone will bring in.
So I'll answer the temperature question first, Herb. So that was one thing that Department of Public Health and Eastern Highlands both said. Two things. One, they didn't want to see the bottleneck of people at the door getting their temperature taken. And then that was secondary to, they were really concerned about the accuracy. And they said that, you know, the epidemiologist, the head for the Department of Public Health has said, you know, it's one measure, and it's something that we should be looking at all things. And so if part of our at-home, you know, setup that they're supposed to go through this questionnaire every time they come to school, whether it's a student or a staff member, and it's more consistent because you wouldn't be logging those temperatures. It's more consistent. If you know your thermometer at home and you come up at 97 every time and all of a sudden you're 99, you're going to pay attention. And that's where we don't want students coming to school or staff coming to school. But DPH did not support, and Eastern Highlands did not support doing temperatures at the door. As far as Hall School and the election goes, it is a challenging time. I know that they're stuck on space and needing a big enough space to accommodate the voter booths. They are highly restricted to where they can go. So they have basically two spaces, the gym, and then only the poll workers can go into the cafeteria space. Everything that is in those spaces will be disinfected, just like we do our schools every single night. The other thing is that ventilation in the gym, although it's loud, will be cranking. And so that is a couple of the mitigation factors. The hand sanitizer at the door that they're going to have, the requirement for masks, all of those things are a reason that, it's a safety measure. It's the same thing that we're going to, basically use the same safety measures that we use for our students and staff in school. And so, from the standpoint of, are we opening ourselves up a little bit? I would say a little bit, but because the ventilation is outstanding in that room, because there's one way in, one way out, because they're going to be moving people along, because they're wearing masks, all of those mitigation factors are the reasons that allow us to open. And they're going to be using those same mitigation factors during the election.
How about the control of people outside in the parking lot?
That I do not know. That I do not know.
I mean, it's on school property. Are they going to be allowed to cluster and things like that?
I think that's on them. That's part of their responsibility. I know that I've already had a walkthrough with Public Works Director and the election officials and our head custodian at Hall, and they have a plan. We walked through all the spaces, walked through how they would people would enter the building and exit the building. So I'm quite sure they're going to have a plan for the outside as well. So.
The other thing I want to ask is, the Democrats have a tent they put up at the town hall on election day, and the Republicans do, and I think the PTA does as well. Have they approached you yet or asked for permission to do that?
No, and I don't think they need to. I don't think I granted permission for the election department to use the facility, so they're responsible. Just like when we grant the recreation department, they're responsible for the acceptable use of that facility, because if something goes wrong, they are responsible, not the school district. And so we have not had a problem with that. If someone wants to set up a tent, that's going to be on the election officials. I'm sure they'll have that area marked off. That's going to be up to them. That's out of my purview.
70 feet or so from the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michelle,
okay, just as taken care of.
Yeah. Michelle, you had a question?
I was just wondering if you'd heard from any parents about what they're able to do after school. I know we had talked early on over the summer about the concern that if parents went back to work and we had to go hybrid, that there weren't options, and we were afraid kids might be home alone. And I was just wondering if that hasn't panned out, because I haven't heard any more about it, and I'm thinking that people have all made accommodations with neighbors and friends.
Yeah, it sure seems that way, because it's not come back up across my desk. And even for our staff, Michelle, because that was a concern too, about, what do you do with your kids if you're at work or need to, if you're your kid's on a hybrid, or, for a parent, if you have to be at work and your kids are being released. So I have not heard that issue come back up. I know our daycares are prepared for it. I will tell you that Jason Phillips is running he's going to be running 4 clubs this year through Zoom that are all, they're all based for music and arts. He came up with some great ideas. So we're trying to do some things that are after school to connect kids that are not necessarily face-to-face. They're all through Zoom. So I have not heard any more about it.
Might be something we should consider the next time your reopening plan meets, because as we move into flu season, the likelihood that we might have to move to a hybrid model, or that we'll have a case that closes the school for 2 weeks. I just want to make sure that parents who are depending on the school for childcare aren't caught out without any other option. I have a number of different models that other schools are using if you want to talk about it in greater detail, but if there's no need yet, just put it on the radar screen.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? If not, we'll move on to the next item, Phil.
All right, so item D is the CIP project for the HMS boiler, the boiler room work. So that was completed by MCOR. This is one of 2 of the CIP projects you have for 2021. They rebuilt the 2 heating pumps and replaced the mixing valve. The final touches were actually completed yesterday. Since we didn't have staff in the building, they had to turn off the water. And everything's great. So we now have a new boiler. We have 2 boilers at Hall. One is, it's aged. The second boiler is new. And now with these efficient heating pumps and the mixing valve, we should be in decent shape for heating season for Hall. The only other CIP project we have for 2021 at this point is the columns, that front entrance at Hall. And we'll wait till the spring to complete that project. So we'll be paying MCOR for their work. Any questions about that? Okay, the umbrella donation. So I just want to real quick say thanks to Jenny Arpin. She's our Human Services Director. She organized an umbrella drive for our students. People donated umbrellas for students to be able to go outside for a quick walk for a mask break. Our carports are not in yet, but they're actually coming in tomorrow. The sheet metal is. I'm just making a note. And so that's exciting, but just wanted to say thanks to Jenny for organizing that. We got in the community that came out and donated the umbrellas. It just gives our kids a break. It's a quick walk around the building. For any student that did not have an umbrella, they could, we just distributed them out. So it was funny to see all the different umbrellas that came in. So thanks to her. The teacher evaluation committee update. We submitted a waiver for the teacher evaluation plan for the 2021 school year. It's just as a result of the COVID-19 related adjustments, we're going to be modifying our evaluation plan just for this year. The State Department of Education, they provided flexibilities to districts to meet student needs, and just, it's social emotional learning around this time. So we made it, the committee met, we made a number of adjustments, including to the number of evaluations that need to be completed, and then the goals needed to be focused on social emotional learning. And that was straight from the State Department of Education. This is only for this year, and there will be no ratings this year. Every year a teacher would get, an administrator would get a rating. There will be no ratings this year. So that was already approved, and thanks to the committee for their work on that. And the next thing, I'm not sure if, the next item is CES and HMS roof projects. Catherine, I don't know if you can share your screen and pull that up. I sent an email today to the board, and I'm not sure if you had a chance to see it or not. It was really intermittent with our email today, so I wasn't sure if you had received it or not.
It came through.
It did, okay.
Yeah.
So I shared a timeline with the board just to give you a sense of, timeline of the project. I realize people believe that we missed the boat as far as, installing the roofs during the summer of 2019. I just don't think that's true. I wanted to share why. On that form, and Catherine, I don't know if you can share it or not. Did she get booted? Oh, she might have gotten booted.
No, she's still on.
I see her there.
Okay. As you can see, when you look at that, the referendum that contained the roof project was approved in May of 2019. And after that approval, that's just step one. The board would have needed a town meeting to approve the funds. You'd have to hire an architect. You'd have to submit your plans to the state. You would then receive approval from the state after a period of time. You would hire a construction company, which you'd have to put out to bid, and then you would complete the work. It may have been unclear to some folks, and on different boards, I've heard the same thing. This takes months just to get the project approved, and that state approval process is lengthy. So there was no way that first summer this was going to happen. We were on track for the summer of 2020 to complete that the roof, and you can see that it would have gone out in April for construction. Our architects had said that we're submitting their RFPs, had said, you're on the timeline here. You will meet your timeline, and we were going to apply to the state in April, which would allow us to get that turnaround for the summer. But then the pandemic hit, and we were unable to hold meetings. Now that we've been back for 5 weeks in school, and we're moving along, I'm going to be moving some of my attention now to this, so we can do this probably looking like in 2021. Obviously, you don't want to tear a roof off in the winter time. And I will tell you that EO Smith just did theirs this summer. They had everything approved prior to COVID, and they are still working on their roof, and they started early. The thing that slowed them down, they did add solar. So that was a significant addition to their project. But I just wanted to make sure people understood kind of the timeline, the process that goes through. And I didn't want people to think that I was shirking my duties. It's a big process. So, questions about the roof? Elena?
Yes, I have a question. Why wouldn't we consider hiring someone? I wonder if you can find us information, how much it would cost us if we would hire a company or a person to handle just particular this question. If you could find us maybe maybe for the next meeting, some official information with official numbers.
Yes.
Thank you.
Brum. Yep. Any other questions? The roof? Right. Is that my report? Is that everything? I think that was everything.
Okay, thank you very much, Bill. I guess you're up again. We're going to be discussing the financial report, the 2020-2021 budget update, and also the 2019-2020 budget final.
Perfect. So the 2021 budget update, I want to make sure when we get to 1920 budget final, I actually really like the notes that are in there. And I want your feedback on that because I think it's something that we may consider doing on a regular basis. So let me do 2021 budget update first and just go through the programs, what's there. What a funky year, I will tell you, just simply because of COVID. In program 1, you can see that there's a balance there of $58,000. Maintenance is over budget about $20,000, and that's really because of the reopening costs and the ventilation projects. So you don't see that there, but you know, I'm hoping that through the grants, we're going to see an additional $20,000 come back into that. There's also Donna's office. Donna has not moved the grants in yet. So once the grants are CSD approved, we will move our grant money into these programs, and you'll see probably another $37,000, I think, come in from Title I grant, and I'll speak about that soon. That would come into that as well, into program 1. Program 2, the middle school, again, no grants applied yet, so that'll be up. They're not as bad as far as ventilation goes, meaning they haven't spent the money, but they have a very big project I'm going to be sharing tonight. Program 3 looks like it has a boatload of money because it currently does, but that's just all of the outplacement tuition and transportation is still in the remaining balance. It will not be there. We have 2 outplacements. All of that money, a good portion of that $499 is for the outplacements and paraprofessionals when they get billed. Program 4, transportation, is it's in the hole by $1,700. Region 19 will owe us approximately $14,000 by the end of the school year, so that will come back up, and that's for the diesel that we have for them, and they fill up at our tank. Program 5, we are about $12,000 over in supplies right now, and that's we purchase supplies to try and get through December. We are tracking that on a spreadsheet and monitoring if we have to order more. Right now, we're doing very well with masks. We're in good shape with that. We just got a really large shipment of gloves in. I will tell you, gloves are the new hot thing that everybody wants. The price is quadrupled. So we're going to continue to make sure we have a supply of gloves for our staff. Program 6, curriculum and staff development. We haven't really had any PD professional development yet, so that is very healthy still. Utilities, program 7, it's all encumbered for the year. It's always the way Donna does it. Program 8, operations and maintenance. This is where all of our cleaning supplies come from and our hand sanitizer. We're about $20,000 over currently, again, to get through December. We are finding that we're going through a lot of soap and a lot of hand sanitizer. Good problem, but we need to make sure we continually stock because students and staff are washing their hands a lot, which is what we want, but we have to make sure we have the stock. Hopefully that is going to be an offset in the grant that I'll talk about later. Program 9, system-wide support. The bills, so the students that go to magnet schools, the school choice, those bills don't come in until March usually. And so there's a good portion of that money is in that. And then the fringe benefits that you see there, the subs, there's a big chunk of money that's there. You had the long-term sub, there's substitute lines there. And we've also been on the lucky side from the standpoint of some of the staff that we've brought in, they have not taken insurance, they've taken the waiver, which the board sees a significant savings when that happens. So that's a October 7, 2020 budget update for you. Any questions about any of those programs?
I have a quick question.
Yes, Donna.
I know you've encumbered for quite a few things, but I don't understand why you don't encumber for the other, like the 2 outplacements, encumber an estimate, and book the $14,000 that you expect Region 19 as an estimate. In the, what differentiates between something you choose to encumber and something you know about but you don't encumber, I guess is my question.
I will answer that as best I can from just based upon what I know and just their past practice. I know typically when it comes to special education outplacements, they wait for their final bill. Transportation, your transportation costs could double or triple depending on what the need of the student is. And so same thing with the outplacement. So if they need a one-to-one paraprofessional in an outplacement versus they don't need a one-to-one paraprofessional, as their needs change, the bill changes. And so that happens through a PPT, through a planning placement team meeting. And our special ed director is there. But if that outplacement is recommending it, it's usually going to be approved. But that's an example of what they've just never, they've never encumbered that amount of money. I guess they could, and then adjust it as it gets closer and they get the actual bill. They never have. What was the other example? Oh, the 14,000. I think they see it as money coming in, and so they. Donna has always just adjusted and taken that number out. I could ask her that question. I don't think she's on tonight.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions relative to the 2020-2021 budget? Okay.
So the 1920 budget final, you want me to do that, Herb?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I emailed a copy of this to you as well. And this is, sorry, the font is really small. But I thought the note that is under each program really allows for a transparent look and accounting of the board funds and what program it is associated with. And so what I did was Donna gave me her end of year report and I took it into a PDF and I inserted the comments into every one. And so, this is the recommendation that we shouldn't have any program in a negative. And so we've zeroed out program 1 and program 3. But I didn't like that picture. I shared this with the board because it's not real. It doesn't show. Those programs were overspent for a reason, but you can't see that in our total balance. And I thought that was important that we made a comment underneath. So, for example, program 1, the note there says shortfall because Title I grant funds needed to be applied to HMS, which was not planned when we did the budget. We had the Chromebook purchase, and we had the septic tank project. So funds were then transferred in from program 2 to zero it out. I think the comments in here, and I'm not sure, you know what, do you all see this or no? Let me see if I can, hey, Catherine, can you allow me to share my screen? It's easier.
Does everyone have a copy of that?
I emailed it, but it went out
Yeah.
today.
Do you have a copy?
I got a copy. Yeah.
It came,
You have a
it
copy.
came kind of late.
I have a copy.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, I don't have it with the comments.
Yes. Brendan didn't realize that I was going to do the comments and she had sent it out. So let me see if I can.
It's the second one that came with the comments.
Yeah, this will clarify it for you. Catherine's working on it.
Phil, I seem to recall you were gonna have like what it was and then show the transfer and then what it was after.
Okay, I got it.
And I don't remember if we got that or not.
I think that's you. You're sharing. I want to share.
Oh, okay.
She's got it. Perfect. That's fine. That's good.
Okay.
So Donna, this is the challenge with it, is that this is the way that their program spits out the data. And so talking to our business manager, basically what she said was, what you're asking for, I think, is already on here in the adjusted number. So when you look at what was approved and then you look at the adjusted, you can see there's an increase there of $55,000. And that's where she said you would see that difference. But I thought you had to look for it. And so the transfer out of what we did last time, it would just be the difference between the approved and the adjusted. I don't know that she can make a separate column out of her program to be able to do that. And that's why we just put the note in underneath. Same thing, like when you look at the adjusted for Hall for program 2, you can see that we basically took money from program 2 and put it into program 1 and program 3. And you read the comment to be able to do that. And part of my question is, is that the type, I could easily do that for the board every time I give you a budget update, just to give you a sense of what's there, if that's helpful.
I think it's great. I'm sorry I interfered without asking, but I think it's wonderful. It's very helpful to me.
Okay.
Thank you.
I agree. It makes it very clear.
And Donna Cook, if you want, you and I could have a phone call with Donna Latinsik as a business manager, just to try and see
You
if
froze for
there's.
a second.
I'm frozen?
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Okay.
If maybe I could do some, like set you up with an Excel template or something to make it easy and that way, so you could see this is what's approved. And this is what we're moving from one place to the other. Just so you could see the pieces of it. I'll think about it and I'll see what I can, and we can talk more later.
Donna's a whiz with Excel too, so I think this comes out of her out of the old software program.
Yeah.
But let's you and I have a phone call with her, and maybe we can figure out what would make it easier to how to see it.
Okay.
Perfect. Any other questions about? Yeah, thanks, Catherine. I appreciate it. You can stop sharing. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
No questions? Okay. Okay, moving along to item 7C, Phil, the grant applications.
Yeah, I thought this is how we've been spending a lot of our time right now recently. And some of these grants are annual grants that we see each year, and some you see the offset in your budget, and some of these are new. So I thought it would be just a good, just to take a moment to go through what they were. We've applied for all of the grants. The only one that's still out there is really Title IV, a little bit of the ESSER grant, but I'll share what's what. So the Title I grant is a grant to improve basic skills in literacy and numeracy. We have to give evidence of serving students that are free and reduced to make sure they have the equity piece there that Herb was talking to earlier. We show these dollars as an offset in our budget in Program 1 and Program 2, and we do that by we pay for a portion of staff. our numbers actually went up. We were anticipating around 75,000 and we got 77,000, which is great. So we, in our grant, we just break it up and there'll be a little bit larger offset in our budget. So that's Title I. Title II is supporting effective instruction grant. And that grant's being used for professional development and curriculum leadership at both center and hall. Again, there has to be evidence that what we're doing is going to serve students who are free and reduced. So for equity, they show this Title II shows as an offset in our program 2. I'm sorry, in program 6, which is curriculum instruction. We again thought it was going to be smaller and it was a little bit bigger, which is great. So it was 12,709. We thought it was going to be 9,934. So that was good. So that's there. Title III is to ensure English language learners that they attain English language proficiency. And so this is a smaller pocket of money, and it's trying to help them meet academic standards. We actually joined the consortium with EastCon for this grant with several other districts. This is only about $900, folks. It's not a ton of money, but it's, we use this money to purchase decodable text for students, anything to help them basically develop their language skills. So that's the Title III. Title IV is intended to improve students' academic achievements and by providing a well-rounded education. We could use this money for clubs, which we've done some of that in the past. You could improve school conditions for student learning. You can improve the use of technology. This is one that we are, I did not finalize this grant yet because we're looking at with the movement for all of our students onto, they all now have an email address that they can utilize within district. They cannot email out of willingtonct.org and they cannot receive emails from the outside in. They can only email their teachers or each other. That's good for their Google Classroom and Google Drive, but it's also improves communication. One of the things that we need is our email server here is aging. And so this is, there's potential here that some of these funds could be used for that. So that's the Title IV grant. Any question about any of the title grants?
How much is Title IV?
Oh, I did not write it down, Herb. I believe it's exactly $10,000.
10,000?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, any questions at all?
Title grants?
Are these for 1 year or?
Good question. So some of these they're 2-year grants, but they're annual grants. So meaning this grant year would be 2022. But we get another one next year, which would be 21-23. That's typically how these have been done for years. We spend, though, all of our Title I money in year 1. It's just we use it to offset. The majority of these grants, because we use them as offsets, we spend all of the money in the first year.
Now, in that literacy grant of 75,000, whether they give you 35,000 or half of it first year, the other half the second year, or is it all up front?
Yeah, it's up front. They give it to you up front. So I think it's like 43,000 and like 37,000. 43 going to hall and 37 going to center. Because they have a higher rate of free and reduced at hall currently, that's where you have to spend more of your money. That's what I was referring to earlier when I was going through my budget report, saying that we had to adjust some grant funds. We had written it last year for center, more for center, just the way it was written. It doesn't really matter because it's in the grand scheme of things. But we had to move it to show that it was spent in the proper location.
Now, who on the staff manages the funds? Do you handle all of them, or do you have the administrators handle the funds for these grants? Do you have who administers each one of the grants?
Yeah, so Donna has the kind of the key to the bank, let's say, as the business manager, and I can sign off on something. There are certain things like the title grant, there's nothing for me to sign off on because we automatically apply that money to those salaries. So that's done. But when it comes to things like Title IV, you know, somebody comes to me tomorrow with a great idea for a club. I shared with you Jason Phillips tonight. I could pay for 2 of his clubs out of Title IV, and it would meet the criteria. And so sometimes it's flexible. Sometimes you can adjust a grant at a later date. You could say, hey, I'm of the 10,000, I want a $6,000 server, and I want $4,000 for clubs, and you would use the money that way and just demonstrate that that's what you've done. But in the end, I'm the administrator of those grants.
Okay. Any questions?
All right, let's get
Okay.
into the bigger money here. So number 5 there, the elementary and secondary school relief funds. Well, these are all the grants now that I'm going to talk about are grants that are connected to COVID. This grant provides districts with emergency relief funds to address COVID. And, you know, it's elementary, it's secondary, it's for the reopening. We're waiting to see if any of our coronavirus relief funds are denied. Because if they're denied, I could apply whatever's denied to this grant. So I'm trying to, before I hit any Willington money, use any of the grants that we have. This one tends to be a little more flexible. This is the one that we have written in right now, although we can adjust it. This one written in is to help offset the cost of the utility staff. This grant is for a total of about $60,000. It all has to be COVID related. And so, you know, things like carports, the utility staff, any of the materials, cleaning supplies, masks, any of those things that we've had to purchase come out of, we're hoping, either out of the ESSER grant or the CRF grant, which is the next one, the Coronavirus Relief Fund, which is part of the CARES money. That's the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Grant. That's what it is. And that was really about districts opening safely and the costs that are associated with reopening, which is significant. Right now, that grant is showing up in our banking software or our grant software at about $200,000. It was really interesting how this happened. They just asked districts what we were answering to a survey. We asked what we thought we would need, and we put a number in. Every district was different. I thought between the items that we needed to purchase and transportation, we would be around $200,000. Other districts put in $10,000. Some districts put in $500,000. Well, we got what we asked for, which was pretty amazing. We haven't seen the money yet, but I will tell you what we applied for. $70,000 for transportation was really if we went hybrid, because we were going to need extra buses, but we didn't need it. So we have asked for flexibility in that money to move it to a different line to help cover other costs that we've had. I will tell you that we're well over $200,000 right now, costs incurred because of COVID things. One of the things that I'm going to share tonight is the ventilation project at Hall School is going to be over $100,000, that project alone. And that is 100% connected to COVID and ventilation. So we can pay for those items through the grants. It's a great avenue for us to do. And that's the intent of it. Any questions about either the CARES money or the CRF money or the ESSER money? Laura?
Just any idea when you might get the CARES money?
I'll be honest with you. So this is where I say things are gray and they keep changing. We did not get notification that the grant was extended, and it was extended. For whatever reason, it went to business offices. So the state is trying to move as fast as they can and getting us the information. They're still trying to determine about how districts can make adjustments. So, you know, I know that it's taking time. we've already spent some of this money, and I take that into account as I move forward with things to make sure if I don't get that money, that I can cover it within our budget, which would be really tight, but that's how I look at it. I'm hoping, because they're expecting that this is supposed to be through December, that, within the next 4 weeks, that we're going to have some sort of answer. Whether or not it comes back to us and they say, hey, you have to refine your grant, or you're good to go. But we can start, some of these grants allow you to start charging off of the grant even before you get all of the money, just a certain percentage. But we're just going to wait until we receive.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You mentioned some of this money is going for tents. For the tents?
4 for the carports, 4 carports. Yep.
Yeah. Are those, are we going to get those sometime, or they're still in the pipeline?
So I had a phone call yesterday. Actually, it was this morning. Wow, days are flying. This morning that the sheet metal is being delivered tomorrow. And so they said have a forklift there, and I kind of laughed and said, we're a small district. We don't even have a loading dock. So I'm working with Public Works. They're going to have something over there to be able to get these items off tomorrow afternoon. And then, we have to wait for the remainder of the items. Freight slows us down drastically. It's just we're at the whatever speed they can get that stuff here. And then it will be Troy and team, probably including Phil Stevens, installing these.
I have a question.
Yes.
It says by the COVID reopening expenses that there's a handout. Did I miss that? Because I don't see them on.
Nope, I was going to address that next. So I didn't do a handout. We submitted our grants last week, and I realized as I was submitting them that I was going to be updating this handout only to find out if they had changed something, I was going to have to update it again. And I was trying to be more efficient. So what I'd like to do is be able to give you the handout once they say, yes, it's approved, just like you were talking about before. I had a column that was just the price. I want to add a new column that says funding source. And so I can say ESSER funds, CARES fund, Willington. So that way I'll give you the handout, but I had already sent out the agenda. So once I have all that information, I can give you an update of the funding source. I thought that was more meaningful, and I didn't want to, be honest with you, waste my own time doing that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I guess we're ready to move on, Phil.
All right. So item D was the food service budget final 1920. And so this report is generated out of the business office. You can see when you look at the bottom, it says fund balance end of year. It says 16,462. What I want to point out in that 16,000 is that we had borrowed $5,000 to cover food purchases and staffing last year. It's still in that number, so that number is more effectively looks like 11,462. We're well aware of that in the business office. We are going to move that money out this fall, but we wanted to make sure that we had enough money to cover payroll and to order food. Our balance is very close to where it was last year. What's really strange about this is with the money that came back in during COVID, because all students were free, it balanced us out. So we're just about, I said we wanted to be about $20,000 in that account without the $5,000 loan, I'll call it. We're not there yet. So the fact that lunch prices were raised again will help, although everyone through December at this point is not being charged. It's free. It's part of that government grant again. So that money will help, guarantee food for our students, and that money will come in. The big thing that I noticed on here that I need to take a look at, our program that we use, Wordware, is fantastic. But to do online bill pay, we are just getting crushed with bank charges. And, you know, it's the fees. Everybody has a fee on top of a fee. If you have an American Express and you put money onto your child's account, we're hit by the quarter, we're hit by a 2.75%, then we're hit by a bank fee. If somebody only put $10 on, we might get charged $3.50 for that transaction. It's just, that's the $3,000. I need to talk to them because there's got to be a better solution. It's just, you know, we need people to have access to pay online, but we also cannot get crushed by bank fees. It's just, you know, this is a self-sustaining program. And we're not even talking about, I need to do an inventory of this program from an equipment side. You know, we've spent some significant money on repairing the center school freezer, 2 coolers this summer. We need, just like we did all of our mechanical equipment with MCOR, we need to do an inventory for this program for all of our ovens, our coolers, our freezers, to make sure that we have a plan for replacing some of these items moving forward. Any questions about the food service final?
I guess not. Will we be getting a report again in a few months on this?
Yes. Yes. As the reimbursements come in, Herb, we want to see an accurate picture with a number of lunches sold. What the reimbursement looks like and how we're doing. But Stephanie and I are monitoring that. She's the food service director.
Okay, moving on to new business. We'll ask for approval of the minutes of September 8th, 2020. This is a virtual meeting on September 8th.
I move we approve the minutes of September 8th, 2020.
Okay.
Tracy Anderson.
Tracy, motion.
I
Elena,
second
second. You have a question?
I have a question.
Elena, you second?
I second it. Yes, sorry.
Okay. Donna, you have a question.
Yeah, I need a couple things corrected. One is under number 8A, where we voted, I abstained, and it has me as a yes.
Can you tell me a page number, Donna, please?
This says page 6.
Page 6?
It's the first of we voted on 2 different things. The second one is fine because it has me abstaining, but the first one isn't.
Is that the transfer?
No, that was the minutes from the July 14th meeting.
No, it's the
7.
Oh, 8A. I found it. Minutes. Gotcha. You abstained.
Yeah. And the next one
Mhm.
on it's my page 8, but it's under little letter C about our discussion of the WPS behavioral and mental health services.
Yep.
It's just after Michelle spoke, Herb spoke, they were short sentences. I spoke, and then Tracy spoke. So if you go up from Tracy,
I got
4
you.
lines, it says, I said other school districts across the country are finding out that it should be medical care, not mental care, is being provided to students without permission.
Good catch. Thank you.
And the last one is my page 10. Little D under Wellington Education Association memorandum.
Yep.
Ann spoke, I spoke, you spoke, then I spoke.
Yep.
And it should be precarious position, the last, just at the
Oh.
very end, and not procurious. I think everything else looks okay.
I have another typo.
Okay, those are friendly amendments, Donna, is that right?
Yeah, I just wanted to,
Okay. Michelle?
I have another friendly amendment. It's at the top of page 9. Under my comments, the word expertise is misspelled in the next to last line of my comments.
Can you tell me what section? Because I think my page numbers are different. Well,
it's after my mental medical.
It's section C, but it's like 3 pages in. And it's spelled with an EES at the end instead of an ISE. So if you looked up EES, if you Googled it, or not Googled it, if you did a search and find EES, it would show up.
CBE. Is this under the behavioral and mental health services?
Yes. It's about half a page up from subsection D.
And what's the word? Where did you say it? I'll just find it.
Expertise, it's
I'll find it.
just a typo. Not a big deal.
Anything else?
Did you
That's
find
it.
it? Phil? Phil, did you find that?
Yes.
Okay. That's another friendly amendment. Make that change in the minutes before we approve them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Tracy made the motion. Elena seconded. Are we ready to move? Any other comments? If not, all those in favor of accepting the minutes as amended signify by saying aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Abstentions, none, and no no's. So we're all set on that. Okay, next item is the Hall Memorial School ventilation system. You referred to these previously, Phil, I believe,
Yep.
and this is in line with the virus, right?
Correct. So
Mhm.
the big things that they're looking at for mitigation factors are good ventilation, masks, and social distancing. Those are kind of their primaries. You could add in hand washing and disinfection, you know. One of the things the board needs to consider is requesting the Board of Finance to fund a ventilation project at Center and Hall schools. This could be funds that you are returning. It could be within the grants as well if it's approved. Center School has 2 classrooms in the upper wing that need ventilation. They were an addition. The rest of that wing has ventilation in it. It was upgraded. It was all connected. It's good to go. Those 2 classrooms currently have fans in the windows. They are pointed out, which is what is the recommendation. And those windows are open. The fans pointing out are the exhaust. And you leave the window open for just intake. Fine when it's 70 degrees outside. When it's 20 degrees outside, it's not going to work. And so we need a solution to this. We have a proposal. It would be, lumping these 2 projects together. That Center School project is a much smaller project than the Hall School project. They would be adding an additional exhaust onto the roof of Center School, and they would be basically extending the vents, the ductwork that is already existing, and they would extend it into those rooms. So there would be a legitimate intake, fresh air intake, and exhaust installed into those classrooms. I think this is critical to remaining open. That's what we hear from DPH. That is what we heard from when we had them come out. We had that company come out to do the inspection and make recommendations. So this cost again is around $8,000. And improving ventilation in the schools is one of the safeguards for the health and safety of students and staff during the pandemic. It's just unfortunate that we don't have this in place and haven't had this in place prior to this. So that's the first part. The second part of this is fall school, which is far more complex and significantly more expensive. The wing that was built in the 1950s, which is when you're facing the front entrance of Hall School, is to the left towards the fields, the upper hallway and the lower hallway. They do not have any fresh air intake. They do not have any exhaust. And they do not have any ductwork. Zero. That was probably what they did during that time was appropriate for building code at that time. And so I was a little shocked when I walked the building, and I'm glad we had the ventilation expert come in and, as we're looking for these things, where are they? They just don't exist. So they are currently operating on the same model right now that Center's operating on, with windows open, fans mounted in, the fan blows out and exhausts the air, and they have the windows open for the fresh air intake again, appropriate for 70, not for 20. And so if it's 20 degrees out, we're going to have a problem, especially because those pipes are going to burst. And so the solution to this, we kind of researched the most cost-effective solution. And what we believe is the most cost-effective solution is what's called an ERV. It's an energy recovery ventilation unit. And this type of unit is actually, can be used in houses, it can be used commercially. And what you see is nowadays buildings are built so airtight, houses are built so airtight that you have to have some fresh air intake because it's so efficient. Basically what would happen is that a company would come in and they would basically cut a hole in the wall of every single classroom. They would install an individual unit, hopefully above the ceiling, and then a vent, just a very short ductwork vent to that classroom. And every classroom would have its own unit. You could do one of the giant or two of the giant units down a rooftop and install ductwork across upstairs and downstairs. I was told it would be a fortune. It would probably be quadruple the cost of what this would be. And it would achieve the same thing. So I'm trusting the professional recommendation on this. Then ERV is the most cost effective. You're going to get a good return. You're going to have air exchange. And they can do it in a reasonable time frame, meaning they can do one classroom at a time. So if we had a fifth grade classroom we were going to work on, that fifth grade classroom could work someplace else. They would complete that classroom. That group would then go back in, and they would go do another classroom. It is a bit of work. I will tell you that, as you can imagine, the electric needs to be upgraded to be able to do this. And the electric cost is in the tens of thousands as well. And so we could open this up if you approve it and you say, please go to the Board of Finance with this request, and the Board of Finance approves it. It would have to go out to bid, and it would have to go through a town meeting, which I'd be kind of snapping my fingers saying, let's go. This needs to happen as quickly as possible. I would suggest that you ask for about $135,000 for both of the projects combined. So if there's a hiccup, because obviously I don't have the quotes yet, I have a ballpark. And so if we ask for $135,000, we believe that's a safe number from what what's been reviewed so far. And that again would go to town meeting if it was approved, and then we could move on that. But it is I will call it a critical piece of staying open as ventilation. And I'm going to tell you that everybody that works in a school right now is highly aware of ventilation. I would, think that this is something that we have to make a priority. Again, unfortunately, it's just not something we have in place right now.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. It's really essential that we have ventilation in some of those classrooms and throughout the building. But from what you're saying, they're not going to do it all at once. It's going to be piecemeal. So that, are they going to finish it before the cold weather hits?
I hope
Otherwise we won't be able to use some classrooms for the youngsters. They can't be in a classroom without the proper ventilation, especially with this pandemic around.
Yeah, I hope so, Herb. And this is one of those things that, I would have to push as quickly as I could. I'm on the agenda for Board of Finance for Thursday night for this, if it was needed, and also for the 2%. You could tie these things together, but it's something that I think is critical. Other sections of Hall School, because when the additions were built at different times, there are sections that are have proper ventilation. These two wings are core of that school, and they just don't have it. And so it's really important.
Now, did you say we could get reimbursement for this from the state?
So it's not state reimbursable, from what I understand, but what this could be covered by a grant.
Yours.
Yeah, I believe could be part of the CARES grant, and that's what I'm
Yeah.
asking. The 70,000 that was in transportation, I would love to see applied to this. I
How
saw
soon do you think?
Herb, 3 hands were up before. I think Tracy, Donna, and Elena.
How soon do you think that this would you could get this going?
Honestly, if it'd have to be as fast as possible. They had a successful town meeting for the lights, so they know it's doable. It would be a matter of, and some of this is the legal of how long something has to be posted for. So if I could get the selectmen to call a town meeting quickly, if the Board of Finance were to approve, it's calling a town meeting once and we probably, before it's even approved, we could put out the RFP to get the proposals in from people, and not wait for that number to, the town approval, to try and speed things up. But it's, just to even get them is going to take time.
Tracy, do you have your hand up?
Yes, I did.
Okay, go ahead.
So one question is, looking back from our minutes from this last meeting, you're saying we could pay for this partly by grants, and it's also, does our now lapsing fund have approximately $30,000 in it? And if if they approved the 2,000 more, that would be a portion that we could use as a bargaining tool. Say we have some of this money, if we could approve that, as well as asking for more and possibly grants, that might be a way to soften the blow of a cost this large. Because if we don't do it, my second question is, we have to go all digital. I mean, everything would have to go online if we couldn't have it.
We're going to have to look at a different method. And the reason why is, say that again, sorry.
Of instruction.
Yeah. And the reason why is, like you think about the 2 science labs are right next to each other, and they have proper ventilation, but the problem is it's only 2 classrooms. In the system that's in place right now, kids stay in their classroom. They don't rotate, and the teachers do. So we have all of the students in basically 6 classrooms right next to each other upstairs and 6 downstairs. And the teachers just are crisscrossing the hall to go into the next class. The kids don't leave that class. And we'd really have to change that model, and we just don't have enough classrooms to be able to do that at Hall. We just don't have enough that have proper ventilation. But I
Donna?
think, Tracy, I think to your point, I would, I think the right way to do this is in the ask is we're going to use every dollar we can for grant money from the state. That would be our first priority. And I truly believe that's why the CARES money is there. They understand there's a cost to doing this business, to opening. I've also been told that there is a larger priority to districts that opened full and not on hybrid. I don't know if that's true or not, but I've been told that, and that's us. So I'm hoping that, you know, if there's a request for a transfer to be able to do this and stay open, that they accommodate us, but the grants first.
Thank you.
Okay. Donna?
Yeah, I like Tracy's idea. The other thing I'm not real clear about, I looked up the ERV because I had no clue what it was. And the pictures they're showing, it looks like there'd be something in the wall
Correct.
of the classroom, but you talked about something up in the ceiling, and I'm not, where does it vent or get the outside air from if it's up in the ceiling?
So it's the same thing you're thinking about. So picture if you've seen a split air conditioning unit or even a window air conditioning unit that sits and you can see it from the outside in the window, and it's, you know, you can see it from the inside. You can actually, if there's enough space in the ceiling, just for aesthetics, you can install it above your ceiling tiles and just vent. You basically put a short piece of tubing in to vent it down into the classroom. You replace that ceiling tile and it's still through the wall.
Oh, okay, so it's like an L.
Yes.
And
It's still pulling in from the outside. It's
okay.
hidden in the classroom. It will tell you, I'm not sure how pretty this is going to be in front of whole school, but you know, because it's on that front wing, I don't have a good solution for that. It's part of our conversation, though.
It doesn't have to be pretty if it's keeping our kids safe.
Yeah.
Okay, was another hand up? Michelle, did you have a hand up?
Elena did.
Elena.
Elena? You had-
I'd like to make a motion to request 135,000 for ERV units for whole school and central school ventilation projects. Did I say it wrong?
No, I think you said
No,
it
you
right.
did it right.
Ann is trying to second, I think, but she's muted. Catherine, can you unmute Ann? I saw her raising her hand, so I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I would like to second it.
Okay. Any further discussion to the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, Phil, I guess you're all set.
I will let you know on Thursday how it goes. Thank you.
Okay. Next item is the draft of the Board of Ed goals 2020 and 2021. The goals include the student growth and success, school culture and climate, and sustainable and strategic investments for the school facilities. You can look at these goals and you can figure out which ones we completed and worked on, and which ones are still outstanding. On the first one, what do you have in mind on this, Phil? You want us to revise these? Is that the idea?
Yes, that's a good question. So I met with the administrative team on this, and one of the things that we were discussing was it may be a good year to extend these. Just because from March you were out, they all still very much apply. And our goals, our administrative team goals, are directly off of these still. And really, there's a great deal, and this connects back to the teacher evaluation plan and what they were allowing for flexibilities, and really the push for social emotional learning this year in particular. That school culture and climate goal is really what the State Department of Education is pushing this year. They even said, you know, it's up to you if you want to do an academic goal, but SEL, SEL, SEL. And so the fact that they're saying that these would apply, and so my recommendation really, Herb, is to extend these for another year and let us continue to do the work. I don't know that much has changed from the standpoint of that what we're doing can still apply to all of these things, whether it's, you know, if we ever have a building committee, it applies to the bottom one. We know all the social emotional learning that we're talking about in mental health is part of the board's conversation still. We know that the intellectual risk taking that's going on right now through Zoom is significant. And so all of these things apply, and we can easily write our administrative goals off of these, and that's why I make that recommendation.
And
I also think that our conversation about upgrading the schools to enable us to work safely during COVID could fit into that third goal too.
Correct.
A comprehensive long-term plan for efficient and effective use of the school facilities. So we're doing that through our ventilation and those types of things. So I think that's still relevant whether we're looking at the new school or not.
okay, very good point. Donna?
I'm a little confused. I don't know, are these identical to the prior goals? Okay.
Correct.
How come, maybe I'm missing it, but there's nowhere on here that I'm seeing where the goal is to prepare, give the child, the student, the foundations so that they can successfully graduate not only from HMS, but whatever high school they would go to and become a productive member of society. There's nowhere in here where I'm seeing that. I mean, let's face it, the goal is for them to get through and to be, in my mind, the kind of people we wouldn't mind living next door to. You know, they are a productive member of society, they support themselves, they engage in great things, you know, and that's going to look different for everybody. But none of this, you know, I see kids that have graduated from high school and they're not qualified to do anything. And I think that we're not doing a service to them, you know, that it's a great disservice if they can't, you know, they don't have any skills for a starter job, or haven't tested the waters enough to say, hey, you know, I really like working with my hands. I want to be an engineer or a mechanic or HVAC or whatever it is, but I feel like we're not preparing them for real life.
So what I'll tell you, Donna, is I think what you're talking about is in our mission. And that's what I was, sorry, I wasn't ignoring you. I have a second screen up. And so it says, our mission statement on our website, and our slogan is engage in excellence. But our mission statement is Willington Public Schools, through a partnership with students, parents, staff, and the community, will provide exceptional instruction in a positive and engaging environment of inclusion where students achieve their maximum potential. That's our mission. And part of our conversations about Portrait of a Graduate is getting exactly what you're talking about. And this is directly connected to E.O. Smith too, of, you know, this all, and I don't want to get on my soapbox here, but all of the studies that came out about students that are getting to high school and leaving high school, you know, we're connected to that. We own that too. Not being prepared for the next step for the business world. And all the studies that came out from business leaders were basically saying, look, we don't care that you have straight A's. If you can't talk to your colleague here and solve problems, you're not doing us any good in our business. And so our Portrait of the Graduate work that is going to continue this year is directly connected to what you're talking about. And it's what Herb was just talking about, that students need to be resourceful and to be respectful and to have empathy, to be able to communicate. All of those things are connected to then what's in our goals, administrators, and are spelled out with some of those really concrete, what we are going to accomplish. straight from the mission to these general board goals off into our administrative goals. Hopefully that answers your question a bit.
So, well, I'm concerned that the board goals just seem, to me, they seem not attached to getting the kids with real life skills that they can use, so they can function.
Are you reading the top goal though about growth and success?
It
To me,
says,
that relates back to the mission. When I read that about a risk-taking to increase achievement for all students through rigorous, relevant, and engaging curriculum.
but it doesn't say that they're going to learn how to do anything.
Well, we're not teaching them skills on how to, fix cars yet. We're working on the curriculum. So I would think that the piece, are you asking for a different type of curriculum?
No, what I'm saying is, if our thing is to foster intellectual risk taking, all right, and increase achievement through rigorous, relevant, and engaging curriculum.
Right.
I guess maybe my question is, are we looking at our curriculum to make sure that our kids are going to end up with real life skills? I mean, I know at the lower grades, it's more learning how to communicate, learning how to take turns, learning how to ask, and things like that. As they get older, it's, are we giving them any skills that they can use in real life besides the fluffies? I mean, a lot of this stuff sounds fluffy to me. Doesn't sound.
Donna, I'll tell you, I think when we wrote these last year, and we did some of this work as an administrative team, I literally think the ending was, when we cut it off because we wanted it shorter, I think it was basically tied back to our mission where it said where students achieve their maximum potential and develop the skills necessary to be a productive member of society. I literally think it said something like that. And we thought it was too long and we pulled it back. But I'm not against, I don't know if that answers your question. I'm not against adding that in there. It's the same message. That's up to the board, but.
Because I've talked to employers that struggle to hire somebody, not because what the job they have that they're offering is high tech, but they can't find a young person who can have a conversation like this. It's always like this. Yeah. And they're like, you can't be a greeter, a receptionist, somebody who answers phones, somebody who does customer service, which can look like a whole bunch of different things, if you can't communicate with another human being well. So that's my concern.
Phil, these are overall goals that we have. Would you be able to develop a spin-off from some of these to provide for some of the things that Donna's talking about? I mean, how these goals are going to be achieved, so we have a plan. If we saw something like that,
or maybe
it might be. These are just broad goals that we have. They're up in the clouds somewhere, but the basic things that you're talking about, Donna, could be addressed through an additional publication or paper to support the goals of the board. What we're going to achieve and what our expectations are.
I'd like to make a point just in terms of the process this year. Unusual this year is typically we spend a half a day at 3 hours in a retreat every summer, thinking specifically about our board goals, what we want to help in our role as the board, help the district to work towards in the coming year. This year, we couldn't do that because we were apart. Our retreat was really focused more on our internal functioning because we have to do this via Zoom. So typically this process is something we start on in May sometimes we talk about it a little bit and then we have a real discussion at a working session in June or July. So I feel like for us, because this year was so unusual and we're already to some degree into the school year, we just work with what we have, because we know we're not going to be doing new and innovative programming this year. This year's programming is about keeping the kids in school and doing the basics to get through to next year and providing some social connections with them in case we have to go back out. And then we're focusing on the basics. You know, I think that we shouldn't be looking at any new and expanded functioning. We have to get through this school year. We're not going to have, you know, a normal year at all this year. And I think that for this year, we should stick with the status quo and then commit to spending some time having this conversation as soon as we possibly can in person, hopefully in June or July next summer. But I think that this is the type of thing that really, we don't want to necessarily wordsmith the board goals in a committee like this. What we really want to do is get to the concepts and have I misunderstood what you were asking, Donna, but I think some of that's difficult to have in this kind of a conversation. It really works much better when we can talk about, well, what do we really want to see the school do in 5 years, in 10 years? Where do we want the kids to be? We want to see the portrait of the graduate come out and then work our goals connected to that. And I just feel like we could wordsmith this now, but I think we are much better off if we just move ahead with where we are, status quo, and commit to a process as soon as we can be together again.
Yeah, I agree with that, Michelle. That's all well and good, and I think we should do that, and I agree with you. However, I think Donna has a good point too, in that we really should be looking at these goals so that we understand what our expectations are just like the curriculum, the school, and the engaging curriculum. When was the last time the board addressed the curriculum? When was the last time we had any staff member in to explain what they're doing in their program? In other words, there are a lot of things that we could do and we should be doing to address each one of these goals. They should not be, you know, tabled. We should be addressing them, even though we are, as I agree with you, we've had tough times. We've been in the epidemic, and all the problems associated with that, you know, but we still have our goals, which we should address periodically. Elena?
Yes, it's exactly what I wanted to mention. When we talk here about goals in student growth and success, we are talking about increasing achievements for all students through a rigorous, relevant, and engaging curriculum. We have no idea what the curriculum is like. So I don't feel comfortable to vote for something when I have no understanding and no knowledge how it works. I would like to, I will be ready to look into it, to have responsibility for it, but to take responsibility for something with blind eyes, I personally don't feel comfortable. I think we should start maybe having a curriculum committee, or I just don't know.
We have a curriculum committee.
Yes, I know we do, but we did not meet. So, and it's okay. I understand. There is no, I'm not trying to judge anyone. No, I'm just saying I don't feel comfortable to accept that we want some super curriculum while I have no idea even a little bit what's in the curriculum. So we never had representation of the curriculum. We never saw the progress. We never heard what works, what not, what's changed. So how could I say, yes, I'm for the relevant, engaging curriculum, which I have no idea what's there, period. So sorry, guys. Did not mean to judge. I just wanted to say that that's how I feel, you know, can support this at this point.
Laura has her hand up, Herb.
Or can I just?
Laura?
Yeah, Laura Rodriguez. I understand, Elaine, if you don't know what the curriculum is, but to me, this is a goal. So to say that we have a goal, that we have a rigorous, relevant, engaging curriculum is absolutely what we want to have. And then if there is a curriculum, I know there's curriculum committee because I was hoping to get on it eventually, but that should be a goal that during this year we start to review the curriculum. But to say you don't know what it is, so that you shouldn't say that that's a goal to have, that that to me doesn't quite make sense. I think that should be a goal to have that. And then it's our responsibility to start reviewing through the curriculum committee to see that that is in place for our children. Again, this year might be a difficult year to really be evaluating curriculum when we're hoping just to keep our kids in school, keep them learning, keep them moving on, and addressing the curriculum as much as possible. But if we go remote, it's, everything slows down. And even just, what's probably going on right now, everything is slowing down. The kids lost a lot going remote in the spring. So, I think we have to be very understanding about that when we're looking at our goals.
Thank you, Laura. Anyone else?
Ann
Ann?
and Tracy both have their hands up.
Can you unmute Ann, Catherine, please?
Ann, are you unmuted?
Now I am. Okay, very good. Phil had told us a year or so ago and that he was planning to start bringing each of the curriculum groups in to speak to us.
Yep.
Because now they have the readers workshop and the math workshop and the writers workshop. So there's some really good curriculum going on. I've seen it through my grandchildren's learning that we haven't seen yet, but I think as soon as we're able, to bring the folks in to tell us about it, I think we'll be able to do that. But I think at this time with COVID, it's hard to put the emphasis on that right now.
No, because I want to comment on that if I can, Herb. Elena, I think you're right from the standpoint of there's so many, and this Herb was talking about this earlier. There's so many things in the air, right? And trying to keep everything going. I agree with you 100% that the board needs to see more of that big picture of what's going on with curriculum, because you've heard about it, but you haven't, and you've seen snapshots of it, but you haven't been able to see it. We haven't approved it. I just had a conversation about this, about math with Erica Bouchard on Friday about this exact topic, that we really need to start getting the work that's been done to the board level to be approved. And I don't think, even with COVID, some of that is unrealistic, as long as we're not overburdening teachers. Because I want to make sure they provide a lot of feedback in this. They do a lot of the work, and it is a stressful time for them. But I agree 100% with you, Elena, that you need to see more of that, and it needs to come out of those curriculum committees. But writing it as a goal is the way that you make that happen. You say, this is important, and we need to make sure we see that progress with the curriculum.
Elena?
Yes, I also absolutely agree with Laura. I'm happy we agreed with everyone. So, but that's a good discussion. So I totally agree that this year goal is for us, not like high mountains, but just to make it through, which is the truth. So I think this year, as probably never before, we should adjust our goals for this particular year and do not use the goals from the previous year when everything was perfect, when we filled with dreams. So now there are lots of problems. So maybe we should just be real and say, hey, this problem, so we hope we will deal with this problem, we will deal with this problem, we will stay strong there, hopefully we will not fall down somewhere else. And so just be a little real, because it's kind of a little bit even, I don't know, it doesn't sound right to me that we have the same goals during even the years never happened before. So maybe we should adjust something to this particular situation.
Tracy, you have your hand up?
Yes, please. I can see what you're saying, Elena, but when you have a goal, you set it and you kind of adjust how you're reaching towards it, but you're still having that as the baton you're trying to reach for in the end. So I don't think that necessarily these goals are something we should throw away. I think they could still be the goals we're reaching towards in the future. The future just might have, the length of time before we get there might be a little longer than previously expected.
You know what may help the board in this conversation is, and I'm looking at it, you can't see the administrative side. I only give you the board goals. It may help you to get a sense of, so without going wild and knowing it is a very different time, what do we want to accomplish this year with curriculum? Is there something, do we want to set even a time frame? You know, establishing some of those things so we're set up for next year. You maintain your goals, but what you don't see on our administrative side is some of the measures that we're looking at. So Donna was talking about Portrait of a Graduate without even knowing you were talking about Portrait of the Graduate, but that's in our goals. That's connected. So we really rewrote our goals this year and we ordered them by priority. Our first goal for on the admin side this year, connected to if you approve these, is around climate and social emotional learning, because that's what the State Department of Ed is really asking us to do right now for students. Our second one was around communication, because parents now more than ever, with Zooming and if we go remote, they need to know what to do and they need the communication. We had our third piece was academic, and then we had a secondary set of goals. And the secondary set was, listen, the facility study and the 5-year plan, those are kind of out there. They're not as like, we don't need to hone in on as much of those this year as an admin team, but we surely are going to talk about 21st century skills, and those skills are what you're talking about, Donna. So I have those measures built in to the admin side. You just don't see them yet. If you approve your goals, I would share those with you to say, this is what we want to achieve. And it doesn't, you could help us set what those things you want to accomplish. I think setting a time frame to say, look, we want to be prepared to go through every piece of curriculum by 2023. If you set that goal, and that's part of goal number one, was you break it apart. Next year, the first 6 months, we're going to be tackling math. And the next 6 months, we're going to tackle ELA or writing or reading, however you want to do it. And just keep moving it along so that way you have a process. But it's setting those things up. I just thought it was important for the board to know there's measures below it that we write based upon your goals.
I guess part of my thing too is without having you can say a whole bunch of stuff, but without having an example of what you mean by it, a real basic example. If I say to child number 1, I want your room clean, what I have in my mind and what it means to them, can be worlds apart.
Yep.
And when we talk about increase achievement, Mike, I've been seeing our test scores decline when we look at the reports. And so I feel like we might have the goal. I'm curious as to how we're going to get there. What are we going and are, without having an idea of how to get there, it's hard to tell if they're reasonable or unreasonable. I'm not saying we shouldn't stretch and try for better. But I also wouldn't want them to be unrealistic.
Right. And that's how we make it come to life. Your job as a board is really to think big. And my job is to take my team and figure out how we can achieve that. So we know that last year we didn't have SBAC. I have no idea if we're going to have SBAC this year. So what are we going to look at for achievement this year? Is that one of our priorities? We need to spell that out as one of our measures. What are our expectations for our students and for our staff? And that's where laying out some of those measures may help you. And it's hard because you have to be up in the clouds. That's part of your job, is that big picture. What do you want as a board? What do you hope? And you hit on it right away, Donna. We want our kids to leave us as productive citizens. They need to have these 5 skills, and that's my job to make them come to life through your goals and your mission. So I'm not sure how you want to move, Herb, at this point.
Well, I don't know if we have an agreement on all of the issues here.
let me ask you this then. This doesn't have to be approved tonight. Would you like me to come back next meeting with, as long as we're in the same ballpark, my staff can start writing their goals. Teachers have to write their goals. And we know they're going to be around SEL because that's what our teacher evaluation plan. I don't think that goal is going to go away for you. I think that school culture and climate goal is going to be there for you. If you can agree upon that, then what I can do is I can take these 3 goals with the administrative team and I can give you a picture of here's the things that we want to look at and accomplish. And our measures of success are tied directly to these. I could give you that for the next meeting so at least you get a sense of the types of things that we want to accomplish, and you can weigh in on those things. I don't think that's unreasonable. I see 2 people now.
Everyone agree to that? Okay. Now, do you want action on this before you do your job, or?
I think if you don't vote on it, I just need to make sure that we're all on the same page of what you want from me. That's what I'm looking for.
I think we're pretty close, Phil. Pretty close.
Ann has her hand up.
Could I make a motion that we approve the school culture and climate goal, and that way Phil can move forward with his staff, and then we can discuss the other 2 at our next meeting and add those?
I think your motion is in order, Ann, but when we vote on the goals, I like to vote on all of them together as a unit rather than, piecemeal. If it's okay with you, I think we should address all of them at once in one package because they're really significant. These are our goals to make sure that our policies and everything we do follows in line with this and what Phil is doing. Elena?
Yeah, I'm just suggesting maybe we should call a special meeting just exactly to work on the goals.
Well, it's a good suggestion, probably. How does the rest of the board feel about that?
I think that if I saw the concrete kind of information, so I could relate this to where the teachers are heading, I'd feel more comfortable with it. I mean, I think I'm sure everybody wants their students to leave them to move on to the next phase of life, prepared to do well and prepared to take on the challenges. So that's not my concern. I just don't quite see how it all fits
together. Yeah. And I think that's Michelle's point, Donna, is that, we would have longer conversation in a board retreat about this. And it's one of those funky things with us right now in COVID.
Elena?
Yes, I also think that if we will add to these goals, whatever you mentioned, Phil, I think it will make us more transparent because teachers, if parents go on our website and just check the goals, which are very clearly laid out, I think that will make them feel comfortable knowing that we are on top of what's going on and we're not just a fluffy clouds. But so there are practical goals.
Yeah.
So if we
and that's, Elena, what you're talking about now is a strategic plan for a 5-year plan, a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan. We need a good solid plan around that. And that's exactly what you're talking about. That's one of our goals that we pushed off as an admin team for now, just to get through this. But we do need that as a district to know where we're going and what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, but this is a special year. I think it would be nice if we would somehow reflect the problems of this year in our goals. That we not just, like check mark done, but more reality in goals. That's what I would like to see. But
Could that last sentence under the first section, you mentioned what it was originally going to be looked at?
Yeah, I don't have a problem. That's
I just-
the board.
I think when our goals are kind of vague, it makes it hard to measure them. Makes it hard to say, am I heading in the right direction? When I looked at this, I'm saying, and I'm one of the few that's not an educator. I looked at this and I said, well, what does this really mean?
What does it mean? Yeah, it's hard. And when you can't see the measures, it's really hard, for sure.
So, Phil, your suggestion was that we put this on hold and address it at the next meeting, and you'll come in with some additional information to support the goals?
Yeah, I can. Yes, I can give you the measures. I think the one thing I'm asking to walk away with is that teachers need, and this is what Anne's getting at. Anne's got her teacher hat on. She knows right now for teacher evaluation, teachers need to write a goal. And the state has said they need one goal, and it should be around SEL. If you, and this doesn't have to be a formal vote, I think if you agree that there's going to be a school culture and climate goal that is similar to what's there, then I think we can easily move forward with my staff, and we can come back to you next meeting and kind of give you a better picture of what we're talking about, and how it's connected to the mission, and how your goals are impacted, and what the administrative goals look like, and then all the way down, what does the teacher goal look like? How are they making that impact in the classroom? And they are. We could easily do that.
Okay, so as long as no one objects to the goals that we have here at the present time, maybe you can do that. We'll put this on the agenda for the next meeting.
Yep.
Is that okay with you? Donna, is okay with you?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, Michelle? Anyone?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay. Okay, we'll do that then. Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to old business. Discussion of WPS behavioral and mental health services. This has been on the agenda for some time. We've taken this up probably at every meeting the last several months. Do we have any further comments regarding this particular topic? Donna?
I had an opportunity to be on a 3-hour webinar this weekend. I found out about it, the opportunity Friday, so I couldn't really let anybody else know. It was short notice. But it was Summit Base Camp did it. It was called Helping Teens Find Hope, Anxiety, Depression, and Suicide. It was really wonderful. I mean, several really great speakers, a lot of good information. What they said, I was able to download the PDFs, but they said within I think 10 days, they're gonna send out a link. So once I get that, if anyone is interested, I think it would be worth your time. And that way, I mean, I'd be willing to share my notes and the slides, but the first speaker did a really good job with the PowerPoint slides. The other ones, it just said their topic and there was nothing. So it wouldn't be beneficial for anybody else to see because there was nothing to see. But it was really, really good. And they did mention a couple certifications and different programs. I'm not really sure what they all involve. But one was mental health first aid, and they call it MHFA certification. And the other one was YMHFA, which I think is more towards the youth. I mean, the whole thing was geared towards the teen age, but there were a lot of really good takeaways and that way that you might be interested in. So I just wanted to share that.
Okay, anyone else?
I can chime in too if this will help. Just didn't know if this was going to be a big topic tonight or just because we were talking about a special meeting to do this again. We did talk to Jane from CHC. And she gave 4 dates. The board was talking about having that company come back in and do a presentation again so you could ask questions. You were asking for information about Stafford and Ashford, who are using this company. You were asking for 2 representatives, teacher representatives, one from each building, to discuss kind of what their thoughts are and what they're seeing in the schools. We were going to share the number of service hours as far as, what are our counselors doing now and what do their caseloads look like. And then you also wanted a picture of a curriculum such as Second Step and kind of a quick presentation on that. And we could do that probably all in a special meeting. It makes sense to try and do that on a night that Jane was available if that's you wanted to hear from her. I don't, anticipate it's gonna be a long time, but do you want those dates? Did I miss anything else that you wanted on there too? Elena has her hand up, Herb.
Okay, Elena?
My question is, why do we need, I understand if somebody has questions to that company, but why do we need to listen to the presentation? Anybody who is interested in their presentation can scroll back to last winter and hear that presentation. So it's kind of another 45 minutes, 50 minutes of presentation. So maybe just answer questions to make it, if somebody has questions.
Yeah, I mean, you could do a 5-minute, just say, hey, 5 minutes, give us a snapshot, and then let us ask questions. I mean, that's up to you.
Yeah, because we spend so much time already on it. Well, we have no idea what's going on in schools and in curriculums and many other questions. So that's my concern. Thank you.
I need some direction from the board.
The dates,
So
Bill?
just have them come to the next meeting and we'll have them, give them some time to give their little talk, okay?
Well, because you have other things, that's just what I listed for you is going to take a bit of time, because she's only a portion of it. She gave me 4 dates. Do you want me to share those dates?
Are the dates between now and the next meeting? Like in
Yes.
a month?
Yep. October 27 and 29 and November 3 and 4. That was what she offered it for availability.
Can we ask her if she's available during our next regular meeting in November?
I mean, that's up to you. Tracy has her hand up.
Tracy?
Yes, I felt, I don't know, this is just my opinion, and not that I want to have extra meetings, but I thought the meeting last week on Wednesday when we focused on just that topic was very helpful because we didn't have to rush. We had a lot of good discussion, and it's an important thing to our community because we've heard, I can't remember how many now because there's so many people have come to say, please talk about this more. Parents, teachers, and community members. And all those things that Phil are asking, I don't feel like we should rush through them if we really want to make an informed decision and be educated about what the decision we're making. So only having 5 minutes here or there is not going to give us enough information to make that informed decision. So my opinion is I would prefer a special meeting because it's already 9:15 and on our regular agenda. And if we have an agenda that's as big as this one next month and put that in, we're not going to be thinking clearly by 10 o'clock when we're trying to make decisions. That's my opinion. I don't know how everybody else feels about it.
Yeah, Ann?
Do we as a board feel like making another decision? Do we feel as if we have enough information to go forward and make a decision about what we want to do about this? Because I think that's what was our goal, was to try to put something in the schools to meet the needs of the children. So if as a group we feel like we're ready to make a decision, then maybe it isn't necessary, you know, to have the other people come in and speak with us again. But if we're in different places and we're not really ready to take another vote about it and make a decision, then maybe we should move forward with one more meeting and hearing from, you know, the towns that have this program and the teachers and everything else.
I would then also go with a separate meeting because many of us do start our day quite early. And when we start going after 9, our effectiveness goes down.
And you're working a full day too, aren't you?
I can't tell you how long I've been on the screen today.
Sorry.
I have a lot of sympathy for you because I know it's tough. Elena?
You already
Elena?
forgot what I wanted to ask. Sorry. It's okay.
Elena, all right, Laura, go ahead.
Sorry.
I just wanted, I guess, two things. One, I would like to hear from the teachers and the folks in Ashford and Stafford, get a little bit more information to speak to Ann's point. And also, I would prefer a special meeting. I'm also one of those who's up at 5 and on the screen all day, and by this time at night, I'm having trouble thinking clearly. So.
Elena?
Yes, sorry. I just want to say, I think we have so many questions that they really need to be addressed. So, like, I can't really agree that we are ready to move into any decision because there are too many open slots and concerns which we need to sort out through. Thank you.
Donna?
I would prefer not to have CHC come back unless we had particular questions for them. But I also, when you're looking at dates, I would prefer not to have it on the 3rd, which is election day. We're already going to be dealing with so many other activities and things like that. And I do agree with Michelle. The length of the meetings is become close to torturous. And I, for one, drink a lot of water and can't sit for 3 hours.
Elena?
I think Phil did not say November 3rd. I think, Phil, you mentioned November 4th.
I said both, yeah.
Both. I think November 4th, it kind of sounds really better over all the other dates, but Wednesday, that's for me.
That would
Do you
work
want
for
me to, what's that? Sorry.
I'm just saying the
No, go
4th.
ahead.
Do you want me to have Brenda then, I don't want to speak for the board. Am I hearing you say a special meeting and just have Brenda say, what date are you available of these dates?
What were the dates again?
October 27, October 29, November 3, which I agree was not a great date. And I even think November 4 is a hard date. Yeah, many of you are on political campaigns, I'm sure, and are going to have some work to do. So it's that may be challenging too. I don't know that.
I can't make the 27th. I can't make the 29th.
That leaves the 4th.
And the 3rd is election day. The only day I can meet is the 4th.
So Wednesday?
The 4th.
4th is a Thursday. Yeah, it's a Wednesday. It's a Wednesday.
Yeah, I can make Wednesday. I can't make Thursdays.
So Laura, you said the 4th you can do?
Yeah, I'm fine. It's Thursday. I have class.
Tracy, can you do the 4th?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Donna?
I believe so.
And Elena, you're shaking your head yes, and Ann?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so there's your answer.
So, I'll get back to you on that, Phil.
Yep, hold that date, everybody, November 4th.
Yeah. And also, if we're having a special meeting, if we have something else that's important, it's okay if we put that on the agenda too. It wouldn't take too much time.
Yeah, it's up to you. That's up to the board.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. You're a good group.
One more item
Last item. Well,
for
sort of.
Laura.
Where are we?
Committees.
Okay, we're on committees now. Board of Education committees. Laura, I don't know if you have a copy of the committees, whether Phil gave you a copy or not, but you've got a copy. But we have committees all set up. And because of the pandemic and everything else that's been going on, I know the committees have not been meeting. The policy committee, the finance committee, the curriculum instruction committee have not met. And also some of the ad hoc committees. And Laura, we have a staff negotiation, clubs committee, wellness committee, security, facilities, transportation, and I think there's another one too, but I don't have it listed.
That's all I have.
And everyone is plugged in on these committees, and you're the seventh member of the committee, and we don't have you anywhere on this chart. So we have an issue. Some people may be in love with the committee that they're on and want to stay on the committee, or maybe someone is willing to shift around, and or you can leave it up to me. I can just put everyone on a committee and see where it falls. But I think most of the committees that we set up, people are on the committee that they ask for and try to work it out so that you can be happy with the committee that you're working on. I'm on the finance committee, and I'm also in every committee, really. I mean, when Michelle was chairman, she was ad hoc on all the committees. So I'm an ad hoc member of all committees, whether I want to be or not. Donna, you have a comment?
Wouldn't it make sense, since Laura replaced Liz, to at least eliminate Liz and put Laura in those spots, at least for now? So that
Yeah.
way
Yeah, I
she's
would,
Those are
on, Liz is off.
yeah, I
Yeah,
would
those
be
are the ad hoc.
fine on those two
Yeah.
ad hoc. I would love to be on one of the standing committees also, but we can just
Yeah.
by year.
Would it be possible to add Laura to one committee, or is there a firm law that says we can only have 3 people per committee?
You
More
can't
than
have
3,
four,
we have a quorum.
because if you have 4, it constitutes a regular meeting of the board.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, otherwise we could do that.
Oh, and everybody's on
Elaine?
facilities, right?
Yes, I would be very happy if Laura is interested to share, not to share, but if you want to be on staff negotiating, please do. Or if you want, or also I'm on the alternate in finance. Go ahead if you are interested in my name on finance and staff negotiating.
Well, yeah, the alternate for finance, that would be fine. I'm already on 3 ad hoc committees because facilities is everybody, and then I'm wellness and clubs. But yeah, if you'd be willing to let me have the alternate for finance, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Can we change it and just cross my name there?
I got it changed on my sheet.
Yeah.
I don't know
Okay.
if
Bill's
that's
sheet is the only one that matters, though.
no one to show up.
Okay. So far, Laura is on the club committee, the wellness committee, an alternate on the finance committee, and maybe we get her on some more committees.
At least my name is there now, so that's
Did you want
Okay,
to
is
do
that okay?
staff negotiations, Laura, that Elena offered to, or?
You don't have that though. Your primaries right now are policy, finance, and curriculum, and 2 of
Right.
you have, or 3 of you have multiple roles there. At least two committees. Annalena and Herb, you're all on
Yeah.
2 separate committees there.
Right.
I kind of want to keep them. I want to be on policy and curriculum, definitely.
Ann?
Let's see, I've been on policy for a long time, so for longevity, and I was excited to be on curriculum this year because it was my first time. So how about policy?
Well, let's see what Herb says. We're down to Herb. Herb, finance or policy? Would you give up either one of those for Laura? I guess that's the only question. If not, then.
Well, which one do you want, Laura?
Well, of the two, I think I would be much stronger on policy than finance. So to be honest,
Laura, did you say you were interested in curriculum?
very much so. I mean, that is,
Because I'm an alternate for curriculum. If you wanted to take that.
that's fine. I'm very open to whatever. It still doesn't get me actually on to one of the committees, but again, I'm getting closer.
Elena has her hand up, Herb.
Okay, wait a minute. Elena?
If you are really interested in curriculum, you can take my seat.
Thank you, Elena. That's nice.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Elena. I would.
Yeah, that's okay. But Donna, then you are still alternate.
That's fine. I mean, I'm okay with that.
Okay,
You-
so you'll take curriculum.
Elena, you're willing to give up the curriculum?
Curriculum, yes.
Do you want the
Laura?
finance alternate back, Elena?
No, no, you can keep it.
I feel like we're trading and swapping here. I'll give you 2 policies for 1 finance.
No,
Going to
So
remain-
now you have 4 spots.
Donna, you're going to remain as an alternate on curriculum, right?
Yeah, I can do that since Elena gave up her spot, unless Elena wants to be alternate. I don't care.
no.
Let's be real. None of these committees are meeting in the near future. I don't
If they
think.
are, they'll be brief.
Curriculum, probably.
So
Yeah.
it, you know, it's,
Okay, so why don't I just run through the committees again, just so you have an idea. On policy, Ann, Elena, Herb, alternate Michelle. On finance, Herb, Michelle, Donna, and the alternate will be
Laura.
Laura. Is that okay, Elena?
Yes, 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 sure.
Okay. On curriculum, Laura, Ann, Tracy, Donna. Herb is on that committee, but he's ad hoc. And then the staff negotiation, Herb, Laura, Ann, club, Michelle, Elena, Laura, wellness, Laura, Tracy, Donna, security, Herb and Michelle. Everyone's on the facilities, and then transportation is Michelle, Elena, and Herb.
Herb,
Is
can
that okay with that one?
I throw a wrench in it real quick? Sorry.
Usually you do. Go ahead.
I know, I'm
Just
good at that. Sorry. Donna got me thinking earlier with her comment that it might not be a bad idea to have a portrait of a graduate ad hoc committee. Because that committee's already, the school-based committee's already done a lot of work, and it's going to be
Yeah.
to the board, relatively soon. I think it's not going to take a ton of time, but I think it'd be good for the board to have an ad hoc committee around that, unless you just want the full presentation to the full board.
You're going to have to make the full presentation eventually anyway, unless you think that the committee's going to make significant changes to it. I don't know why you'd have a committee meeting first.
I don't mind being on the committee
It's up to you.
for the portrait of the graduate, as long as
You
it's
what?
before January. I said, if he wants another ad hoc committee, the portrait of a graduate, I wouldn't mind being on that as long as it meets before January.
Well,
I mean, we can just-
Michelle, you want everyone to be on it? Is that what you said?
No, that's not what I said.
I think her point, Herb, is that, when it gets to board level, you're all going to get the presentation no matter what. It would be a
Yeah.
presentation.
Mhm.
And it's going to go through a lot of stakeholders besides the board. It's going to go through community members. It's going to go through business leaders. So, you know, whether you want a committee or not, that's up to you. I could go.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I think that this is a fairly important topic that you brought up, and it might be well to have everyone on it.
So that means
It also
we would just add it to the board then.
it ties in with what E.O. Smith is doing as well. So there's quite a bit to it, really. And
So let's not make a committee of it then, Herb. Let's just make sure we have it on the agenda for review, and if it takes a couple meetings to do that at the board level, we can do that and not have a
yeah,
specific for it.
I like that. I like that. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Sorry for the kink.
Okay. So we're all set so far on the committees. And can you have Brenda
Absolutely.
type up a copy of that for everyone?
Yes.
Okay, so where are we here? We're almost, wow, I don't believe it. We don't have anything else on the agenda. Okay, except for present to speak. This is an opportunity for members of Wellington to contribute to our meeting. And I believe, Phil, you have a list of citizens in town.
Yeah, if there's
This is
anybody
the
on,
time.
yeah, if there's anybody that's off camera that wants to speak, you can either pop on camera and we can call on you. I think there are 2 people hanging on tonight. So Melissa's shaking no, she's ready to go to bed. Hera is still there.
I thought Erica was on.
She was
Was she
on
on
for a
early?
little while. I think she left. Here, do you want to speak, or we can unmute you if you want to speak? I think it's a no tonight, Herb. No public comment tonight. There you go. Oh, she's saying no. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. No present to speak.
No present to speak. Okay. Let's move along to board comments. Well, just want to thank everyone for coming this evening, and we moved through the agenda pretty well. It's now about 8:30, which is very good.
Nine.
9:30. Oh my goodness! 9:30.
Let's go back already.
My apologies. It's wrong. I take that back. I didn't say anything. I had quite a few notes. I wanted to talk about the fire department lease. I didn't see a copy of it, Phil, and I know you've signed it already. And
Yep. We'll send it.
Can I see a copy of it?
Yep.
You signed it already, haven't you? Okay.
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. We can.
You told me you signed it. But check it out anyway, okay?
Yep. Yeah. I think you signed it, Herb, but you might not have a copy of it. But we'll get you a copy of it.
Maybe that's it. Yeah. Okay. And I was going to talk about the voting at Hall School. Our opening plan is you took care of that. Temperature tents, everything that I've had in mind to ask during this particular time, I have completed, I guess, or you've completed. I want to thank Phil and the staff for continuing to persevere during the pandemic, and we think of you and hope that everything proceeds nicely and that this thing finally gets finalized. Okay, who is next? All these smiling faces here tonight. Want me to pick someone, Laura? I got you.
I was thinking I'll go
Laura,
next because last time I went last. So, Okay, so yeah, so first I wanted to thank Phil and the staff for just the amazing job that you're doing with this incredibly difficult situation that we're faced with in education, and just, you know, hoping that you are all staying safe. Thanking the reopening committee for all the work that they've been doing through this whole time. And I don't know if I got this name right. Corey Brennan, was that the person who went? Okay, I want to thank him for
Yeah.
going down to Mohican Sun and getting the masks and helping out that way. Jason Phillips, and he was here before. I wanted to give him a shout out. You know, I was lucky enough to have worked with Jason when I was at Hall, and just his dedication to the students and trying to bring in the arts, drama, and music. He goes above and beyond. Jenny Arpin for the umbrella donation. What a wonderful idea.
Yes.
And also I wanted to thank all of you board members for being so kind and for giving me positions on the committee and even giving up your own to let me become more engaged in the committee work of the board. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura. Anyone else like to say a few words?
I'll go quickly. I'd
Go
like
ahead,
to
Elaine.
reiterate everything that Laura said.
Thank you, Michelle. Elena?
Those were exactly words I wanted to say. So I guess
asked.
I agree with everything which Laura and Michelle said. And I hope that we will continue, with God's help, that we will continue to stay healthy and nobody will get sick, not kids, not adults. Please, it goes well now. Thank you, Lord.
Say that again. Okay. Tracy?
I don't know, second, third, fourth, anything that's already been said, but also thank Phil and Donna and anyone else involved in helping to give us more information on the reports for the end of the year, as well as clarification about the roofing project and other items you provided us today.
Ann?
I just wanted to thank the teachers for juggling the in-person and the online. They're doing an incredible job, and it just has to be so hard. So I really thank them for all their intellectual risk-taking, trying to make this happen. So it's really appreciated.
Thank you, Ann.
So I guess I'm last, which is okay. There was one particular kindergarten teacher who was very, very kind to my brand new little neighbor. And I don't know the teacher because she's a newer one, but I just want to make sure that the teachers know that the kindness that they share really does make a big difference. And sometimes it's easy to overlook the little things that really do mean so much to our children.
Thank you, Donna.
It's important.
Okay, I'll adjourn the meeting at this time and wish everyone safety and health, and we'll see you shortly at a special meeting on November 4th.
Good night, all.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Night.
Bye.